I know there's a lot of confusion surrounding Moore Street, so I'll try and keep it as brief and as simple as possible. For over this past roughly 15 years, there's been a campaign by some of the relatives to have Moore Street recognised for what it is and what the National Museum called it, the most important battle site in modern Ireland. In that time, we've had support of literally everybody from National Graves to the 1621 Club, the Irish Volunteers, the North Inner City Folklore Project, the Relatives Group and this Relatives Association. On our last meetings in that, we've called for a battlefield assessment by an independent group. This hasn't been done yet, unbelievably. So far, we've had an assessment done by Chartered Lands, but we would wish to see an independent battlefield site, because there's a lot of stuff down there connected with 1916 that is up for demolition, and unless we move on it and keep the pressure on, it'll be all gone. Like, we won't be able to talk about it with our grandchildren and so on. We met the Taoiseach on it recently. That is a group of the relatives who have relations who died, who were executed during 1916. And to be honest, I attended a meeting and we were just basically greeted with indifference. The Taoiseach, he didn't want to really know anything about the site. The latest on Moore Street is there was a disturbing move by City Council management, and they were suggesting a land swap with this developer who owes us people here in the room and the rest of the Irish public 2.6 billion. And so there's been talk of giving him another 10 million to basically demolish the rest of Moore Street to make way for a shopping centre. In our inaugural meeting in Wins, we all agreed to call for the preservation of the 1916 buildings and indeed any buildings that have links to the Rising that would be remaining. And I'd just like to confirm that we still do on that. Now, over the next coming months, some of the relatives have kindly agreed to do a few tours of Moore Street. These are going to be in groups of about 20 people or so. They'll take any of the members of the association who want to go and have a look around the site, find out why it's so important, what is important on it and that. They can come along. There'll be a charge of €5. This isn't going into anybody's pocket. This goes on stuff like photocopying and general stuff like that. Pardon it? Business cards. And business cards and such like and that, you know. So that'll be taking place before Christmas, hopefully. So Gmail will go around to all the members, and you'd be more than welcome to come along. Also, every Saturday at the moment, there's a petition in Moore Street. A couple of people have kindly agreed to give up their time. They're down there every Saturday. You're more than welcome to come down and sign it. It's a very, very important situation that we have at the moment, and the more support we can get for this, the better.
Commandant General of the Dublin Division of the Army of the Irish Republic in 1916. I'd just like to take up the point to follow on what Barry was saying about the Moore Street campaign. Just to fill you in on recent developments, because it's very important. There's a big city management push to give away, hand over the last two publicly owned properties at 24-25 Moore Street to, of all people, the developer, the NAM developer, Chartered Land. It should be remembered that the policy of Dublin City Council on the future of Moore Street is that the entire battlefield is preserved, and it should be subjected to a battlefield assessment by an independent body of experts. That's the agreed policy of Dublin City Council. It's the agreed position and recommendations of the Moore Street Advisory Committee. Now, there's been two important votes, deferred votes at the last two council meetings, quite simply because management didn't have the numbers. So on two occasions they deferred the proposal to hand over the last two publicly owned houses on Moore Street to the developer. They're going to push this again, because now we're being led to believe, because it was the reason for deferring the last meeting, that there's some move on number 10 Moore Street. So here we have the most appalling attitude to buildings occupied and held in the name of the Irish Republic in the dying days and hours of the Easter Rising, where 5 of the signatories spent their last hours of freedom before their execution, being treated in the form of a horse trading exercise, a craggy island approach to planning. If we don't get them to agree this, we'll give them another piece of the battlefield site. The entire area of the GPO Moore Street battlefields is a battlefield site described by our own National Museum as the most important historic site modern Irish history. And what that should tell us is that public representatives representing the public interest must adhere to the expert opinion that this is the most important battlefield site in modern Irish history.
Mauser, and it came in two rifles, a K98 and a G98. The ones that came in Hout were called long-nose rifles. They got a nickname along. Very bulky, very awkward, and had a kick like a mule. So coming up to World War I, the Germans took the rifle off and started bringing these ones out. More gas-operated, helped the fire. But by 1916, most of the ammunition that he had at the time was running short. The German Mauser fired, and still to this day, fires a 7.92 round, which is a big round, okay? These rifles in a good hands would be 1,000 yards, okay? And have been proven, okay? We move on to the Lee Enfield, okay? It's a Lee Enfield SMLA Mark I, okay? Probably one of the best rifles ever made.
I'm the granddaughter of Thomas Hughes, who was in the GPO. I just wanted to say that it would be great if we had the government's, back up on this, but what the government actually really do have to remember is there would be no government now without our lads and lassies.
True.
There wouldn't be. They fought to give us this government, and that's why they have the jobs in this government now. That's all I'd like to say.
Thank you.
Foremost, I want to honour my father, Sean Ford.
Can you tell us who you are?
My name's Anya Ford. My father was at the magazine Ford. Then he came down to around the Four Courts area, Church Street. My brother has done an awful lot of research on the whole thing, but I just want to honour Sean Ford, who was very reticent to talk about 1916. He was a man difficult to get to know, and I want to get to know my father. He's in my genes, and I know that all his involvement, a man of huge integrity, that he went out on my behalf, on behalf of the next generation, and I know that what he went through in 1916 and the following years had a repercussion on his life and his personality. He was a wonderful father, but reticent to speak about 1916, as you all appreciate.
I think a lot of them were.
Yes, they were, I know that. I know, but I want to get to know him, and I want to honour him. Sean Ford, and my brother has done a lot of research on it, but that's...
You're very welcome.
Peter Walls. My relative was my grandfather, a man called Harry Colley, and he fought in the GPO garrison. And the reason I'm here today is because I grew up in an atmosphere where we never talked about this. It was all forgotten, and I can understand why, because it was a very, very difficult time. And so I'm here today to try and find out more, and I've already learned an awful lot from the speakers and from people at the top table. I really want to thank you very much for forming this organisation. I really appreciate it personally. Myself and my cousins are making a little video about my grandfather, Harry Colley, who charged a British machine gun on Sean McDermott Street. And unlike some of his comrades, he survived it, although he was shot 6 times. And I just, from a humanity point of view, I want to remember these people, and I just found today very, very interesting. I found the history extremely interesting, but most importantly, I want to learn more about it, because to be honest with you, I'm very confused. And I really don't know my history as well as I'd like to. Thank you very much.